Hey there, friends. Today, we're heading to a cozy Tennessee town for a story that'll melt your heart. A little girl, her brave service dog, and a biker whose prank sets off a chain of kindness and redemption. It's all about second chances, furry heroes, and the families we find when we need them most. If you love tales that warm you up like a fireside chat, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out. We've got more where this came from. Now, grab a coffee, settle in, and let's dive into a journey that proves love can heal even the deepest scars. The sleepy town of Cedar Hollow, Tennessee, hummed with the gentle rhythm of a Saturday morning in late September. Nestled in the foothills of the Smoky Mountains, its 2,000 residents lived a life shaped by rolling fields, weathered barns, and the occasional tourist seeking the quiet beauty of rural America. Daisy's Diner, perched at the corner of Main and Elm, was the town's heartbeat, a clapboard relic with a wraparound patio where the scent of fresh coffee mingled with the crisp autumn air. Under the shade of a gnarled oak tree, 9-year-old Clara Hayes sat in her wheelchair, her auburn curls catching the sunlight as she tore a cinnamon roll into bite-sized pieces. Beside her, Titan, her German Shepherd service dog, lay in a perfect, down position, his black and tan coat gleaming, his amber eyes scanning the patio with the vigilance of a seasoned guardian. Clara's world hadn't always been confined to this chair. 3 years earlier, a rain-slicked night on Route 12 had changed everything. A pickup truck, driven by a man too drunk to see the lines, crossed into her family's lane, killing her parents, Ben and Lisa Hayes, and leaving Clara with a spinal cord injury that stole her leg's strength. Ben, a Cedar Hollow sheriff's deputy with a knack for training dogs, had foreseen a future where Clara might need extra help. Months before the crash, he'd arranged for Titan, a pup he'd rescued and trained from his K-9 unit days, to become her service dog. Titan wasn't just a companion, he was Clara's lifeline, fetching her books, steadying her during transfers, and alerting Ellen, her Aunt Ellen, to the rare but dangerous spikes in Clara's condition known as autonomic dysreflexia. To Clara, he was more than a dog, he was her shadow, her courage, her piece of her father still walking beside her. Ellen Hayes, Ben's older sister, sat across from Clara, her reading glasses perched on her nose as she reviewed a worn planner. A former middle school teacher from Knoxville, she'd traded lesson plans for caregiving after the accident, moving into the family's old farmhouse to raise Clara. Her hands, once steady with chalk, now bore calluses from pushing Clara's wheelchair, and her dark hair showed streaks of gray she hadn't bothered to dye. "Dr. Lee says your arm strength's up 10%, she said, glancing at Clara with a smile. "We'll get you lifting Titan soon." Clara giggled, a rare sound that lit up Ellen's tired eyes. "He's too heavy, Aunt Ellen." She slipped a crumb to Titan, who took it gently, his training impeccable even in play. The patio buzzed around them, farmers debating crop prices, retirees reminiscing about the old mill, and Daisy's staff weaving through tables with trays of biscuits and gravy. Ruth, the manager, a stout woman with a soft spot for Clara, waved from the counter, her apron dusted with flour. This was their routine, their safe haven, a place where the town's warmth wrapped them like a quilt. That peace shattered with the growl of motorcycle engines. 3 Harleys rolled up to the curb, their rumble shaking the patio's wooden planks. Heads turned as the riders dismounted, leather jackets creaking, boots thudding on asphalt. The leader, Jake Turner, was a broad-shouldered man in his late 40s, his close-cropped hair flecked with gray, a faded eagle tattoo peeking from his sleeve. He pulled off his helmet, revealing a face weathered by sun and something darker, eyes that held a storm behind a forced smirk. Jake wasn't a stranger to Cedar Hollow, he'd grown up here, a football star turned Marine. But his decade overseas had left him a ghost of that boy. Iraq had taken his steady hands and easy laugh, replacing them with tremors and a temper he drowned in whiskey and the roar of his bike. His buddies, Mac and Travis, followed him onto the patio. Mac, a wiry kid in his 20s with a patchy beard, slung his helmet over a chair. Travis, a burly mechanic with grease-stained hands and a quiet demeanor, scanned the crowd warily. They settled at a table near the entrance, their presence a ripple in the diner's calm. Jake's gaze swept the patio, landing on Clara and Titan. "Nice dog," he said loudly, elbowing Mac. "Bet it's just some kid's pet, though. Look at that fancy vest, probably a fashion statement." Titan's ears twitched, but he didn't budge, his training a steel thread holding him in place. Clara glanced up, her green eyes catching Jake's for a heartbeat before dropping back to her cinnamon roll. She was used to comments, people often missed Titan's service vest. Bold with "working dog" in red letters, but Jake's tone prickled her skin. Ellen's hand tightened on her coffee mug. "Ignore them," she murmured, her voice low. "Just eat, sweetie." But Jake wasn't done. He stood, swaggering toward their table, his boots thumping the planks. Titan shifted, rising to a sit, his body a silent shield between Clara and the stranger. Jake squatted to Titan's level, smirking. "Morning, kid. That's a fine shepherd. Military, maybe? Looks too sharp for a pet." "He's my service dog," Clara said softly, her voice steady despite the flutter in her chest. "His name's Titan." "Service dog, huh?" Jake's smirk widened, his eyes skimming past the vest. "Let's see how good he is." Without warning, he clapped his hands sharply, the sound slicing through the patio like a gunshot. Cups rattled, a woman at the next table gasped. Titan tensed, ears flattening, but held his position, eyes locked on Jake with unwavering focus. "Steady," Jake said, his tone mocking. "Real steady. What happens if I—" He lunged forward, pretending to grab Clara's wheelchair. Titan's growl rumbled deep, a warning that froze Jake mid-step. The dog didn't bark, didn't lunge, just stood his ground, a wall of muscle and discipline. The patio fell silent, forks hovering over plates, all eyes on the scene. "Whoa, easy, killer," Jake laughed, stepping back with hands raised. "Just a joke, folks." But the laughter didn't reach his eyes, and no one joined in. Ellen's face hardened, her protective glare boring into Jake. Clara's small hand rested on Titan's shoulder, steadying him as much as herself. "Please leave us alone," Clara said, her voice trembling but firm. "He's working." Jake's grin faltered. A flicker of something, shame, confusion, crossing his weathered face. "Good training," he muttered, retreating to his table. Mac rolled his eyes, muttering, "Let it go, man." While Travis shot Clara an apologetic glance. Jake sank into his chair, but his gaze lingered on Titan, troubled. That growl, that steady stance, it stirred memories he'd buried under years of noise, sand-swept patrols. A K-9 named Rex barking warnings, and a friend named Ben Hayes pulling him from fire. Cedar Hollow knew Jake's story in fragments. He'd been a hometown hero once, enlisted after high school. Trained dogs in the Marines with a patience that won medals. But Iraq had hollowed him out, Rex's death, the blast that took his squad, the guilt he carried home. Jobs slipped through his fingers. Relationships crumbled under his temper, and the Harley became his armor, its rumble a shield against the past. He didn't know Clara, didn't know Titan's history, but as he sipped his bitter coffee, a name whispered in his mind, Ben Hayes. Could it be the same man? Clara, oblivious to Jake's turmoil, whispered to Titan, "He's sad, isn't he?" Titan's tail thumped once, as if agreeing. Her old soul eyes, as Ellen called them, saw pain where others saw threat. She didn't know it yet, but that morning's clash was the first thread in a tapestry of healing, weaving 3 lives together in ways no one could foresee. The patio at Daisy's diner exhaled a collective breath as Jake retreated, but the air stayed heavy, like the stillness before thunder. Clara returned to her book, where the red fern grows, her fingers tracing the worn pages, but her mind replayed Jake's smirk, his clap, Titan's growl. She wasn't scared, not exactly, but curious, her green eyes darting to Jake's table where he hunched over his coffee, fingers tapping a restless beat. Titan stayed vigilant, his gaze flicking between Clara and the bikers, his body a coiled spring beneath his calm exterior. Ellen, meanwhile, scanned the street, her teacher's instinct for trouble on high alert. "We'll head out soon," she said, checking her watch. "Therapy's at noon, and I don't like the vibe here today." Clara nodded, but her thoughts lingered. "Aunt Ellen, why was he testing Titan?" she asked, her voice soft as the rustling oak leaves above. Ellen sighed, brushing a curl from Clara's forehead. "Some people don't know how to handle their hurt, sweetie. They poke at things, people, dogs, to see what breaks. Doesn't make it right." She didn't elaborate, but her own memories stirred. Ben had come home from his first tour in Iraq quieter, too, his laugh muted until he'd joined the sheriff's K-9 unit. Titan had been his redemption, a scrawny stray he'd found near a barn, trained into a star tracker. Ellen had seen the light return to her brother's eyes through that dog, a light snuffed out too soon on Route 12. Across the patio, Jake couldn't shake the encounter. "That's no pet," he muttered to Mac and Travis, his voice low but sharp. "Police training, I'd bet my bike on it. Look at how he moved, textbook defensive stance." Travis, his hands stained with garage grease, shrugged. "So what? It's a kid's dog. You're making a scene over nothing." Mac, picking at a biscuit, snorted. "Yeah, Mitchell's got a point, let it go." "Jake, you spooked half the diner." But Jake couldn't let it go. Titan's steady gaze, his controlled power, clawed at something buried, memories of desert patrols, Rex's barks cutting through the night. Ben's steady hand on his shoulder. He stood again, ignoring Travis's groan and Mac's eye roll. "One more test," he said, striding back toward Clara's table, his boots thudding like a drumbeat. Titan rose instantly, positioning himself squarely in front of Clara's wheelchair, his hackles up but silent. Jake stopped a few feet away, smirking. "Smart dog. Knows a threat when he sees one." He shifted his weight, testing Titan's reaction. The growl deepened, a low rumble that vibrated the air. Ellen stood, her chair scraping the wood. "That's enough," she snapped, voice sharp as a school bell. "Leave us alone." Clara's hand tightened on Titan's shoulder. "Please stop," she said, her voice small but clear. "You're making him nervous." Jake's eyes flicked to her, then back to Titan. "Your dad train him?" he asked, his tone rough, probing. Clara hesitated, then nodded. "He was a deputy." Titan helped him find people. The words hit Jake like a jolt. Deputy Hayes. Ben Hayes, he muttered, stepping back. His smirk faded, replaced by a flicker of recognition, regret, maybe grief. Good dog, he said roughly, turning away. But as he reached his table, he paused, the name echoing in his skull. Ben Hayes, the Marine who'd loved dogs, who'd yanked him from a burning Humvee in Iraq. Who'd laughed over warm beer about training strays. Could it be the same man? The odds twisted his gut, but the dog's poise, the kid's quiet strength, it fit. Time to roll, Mac said, clapping Jake's shoulder. VA appointments in an hour. Travis nodded, tossing a few bills on the table. Jake followed, but his mind churned as the Harleys roared to life, drowning the patio's hum. He glanced back at Clara and Titan, a shadow crossing his face. Last night's whiskey hadn't dulled the question now burning through him. Back at the farmhouse, Clara and Ellen stuck to their rhythm, physical therapy at the rehab center, where Clara gripped bars to strengthen her arms, then a stop at Cedar Park. Titan bounded in the fenced dog area, his off-duty joy a contrast to his earlier tension. Ellen watched from a bench, her knitting needles clicking, but Clara's silence weighed on her. That evening, on the porch swing, Clara spoke up. He wasn't mean, Aunt Ellen. Just lost. Like Daddy was sometimes. Ellen's needles paused. He scared you, Clara. That's not okay, no matter how lost he is. I know. But Titan knew he wasn't bad. He didn't bite. Ellen let it drop, but the next morning brought a jolt. As she sliced apples for Clara's breakfast, the landline rang, a rarity since cell phones took over. Hayes residence, she answered, cradling the phone. Ms. Hayes, this is Deputy Carter, a familiar voice said. We got a report from Daisy's about an incident yesterday, your niece and her dog. Can you come to the station? Someone involved turned himself in last night, and Captain Reed wants to talk. It's tied to Ben. Ellen's breath caught. Turned himself in. Who? Jake Turner. Says he knew your brother. We'd like Clara there too, if she's up for it. After hanging up, Ellen knelt by Clara, explaining gently. The biker from yesterday, he's at the sheriff's office. Might have known your dad. Clara's eyes widened. The loud one? Maybe, Ellen said, uneasy. We'll find out. The Cedar Hollow Sheriff's Office stood squat and sturdy, its brick walls weathered by decades of mountain wind. Deputy Carter, a lanky man with a kind smile, met them at the ramp. Hey, Clara. I worked with your dad. Titan too, he sniffed out a lost hiker once in under an hour. Titan's tail wagged, proud. In the community room, a space for town meetings, not interrogations, Captain Reed waited with Jake Turner. Gone was the leather jacket, he wore a faded flannel. His face haggard but softer, hands shoved in his pockets. He stood awkwardly as they entered, avoiding Ellen's gaze. Ms. Hayes, Clara, Reed began, voice steady, this is Jake Turner. He came in last night about Daisy's. There's history here. Clara tilted her head, studying Jake. You knew my daddy? Jake flinched, then nodded. Yeah, kid. Ben Hayes was my best friend in Iraq. Saved my life once, pulled me from a wreck. I didn't know who you were yesterday. Seeing Titan, it hit me hard. I was a jackass, and I'm sorry." Ellen's voice was ice. "You harassed my niece. Scared her dog." "Why?" "I didn't mean to scare her," Jake said, eyes dropping. "Titan reminded me of Rex, a K9 I lost overseas. Trained him with Ben. When I saw the vest, I lost it, PTSD. Anger. Been a mess since I got back. I'm not proud." Reed stepped in. "Jake struggled since discharge, but he's here to make it right. Ben was one of ours, means something in Cedar Hollow." Clara's voice cut through, small but sure. "Did you help Daddy train Titan?" Jake blinked, startled. "Yeah. Found him as a pup near our base, half-starved, all ears. Ben and I worked him together. Off the books. He was smart as hell. Titan remembers good people," Clara said simply. "That's why he didn't hurt you." Jake's throat bobbed, emotion cracking his tough shell. "Your dad would have hated what I did. I'm sorry, Clara. To both of you." Ellen softened, seeing Ben's haunted look in Jake's eyes, pain she'd nursed her brother through. "Ben never mentioned you," she said, quieter now. "I cut him off," Jake admitted. "Couldn't face him after I fell apart. By the time I heard about the crash, he was gone." Silence settled, heavy with shared loss. Clara reached for Titan, her anchor, and whispered, "Daddy would have forgiven him, wouldn't he?" Ellen nodded, reluctant but certain. "Yeah, sweetie. He would have." Outside, Cedar Hollow buzzed on, tractors rumbling, church bells chiming faintly. But in that room, a thread from the past wove into the present, fragile but real, setting the stage for what came next. The sheriff's office meeting ended with a fragile peace. Jake promised to steer clear, Ellen opted against charges, moved by his remorse and Ben's shadow in his story. They left with a nod. Titan's steady gait a comfort as they drove home. But Cedar Hollow's quiet wouldn't last. That evening, as Ellen tucked Clara into bed, her room a cozy nook with quilted walls and a photo of Ben smiling with Titan, the landline jolted them awake. Ellen fumbled for it, heart racing. "Hayes residence," she rasped. "Ellen, it's Captain Reed," came the urgent reply. "We've got trouble. Jake's friend Travis is pinned in his garage. Some guy from a bar fight last night tracked him down. Armed, unstable. Jake's headed there, and we're mobilizing. Titan might help." Ellen's stomach dropped. "Titan? He's Clara's service dog, not a deputy." "I know," Reed said. "But he's ex-K9. Travis says the guy, Cole, spilled beer on him last night. Titan could track him if he's bolted. We'd keep Clara safe, I swear." Clara, awake now, sat up. "Titan can help, Aunt Ellen. Daddy trained him to find people." Ellen's protests faltered under Clara's calm resolve. "Fine," she relented, "but we stay out of danger. Soon." They were in a sheriff's SUV, Titan alert at Clara's feet, his vest glowing under the dashboard lights. Travis's duplex sat on the town's ragged edge, a sagging brick building flanked by overgrown lots. Deputies fanned out, radios crackling, as Jake briefed Reed near the garage. "Cole's unhinged," Jake said, voice tight. "Blames me for his cousin's death in Iraq. Our unit got pinned down. Couldn't reach them. He's got Travis in there, knife and a gun." Reed nodded to Clara. "Can Titan track him if he's run?" Clara held out Travis's beer-stained shirt, handed over by a deputy. "Titan, seek," she commanded. The shepherd sniffed deeply, then moved with purpose, nose to the ground, leading them past the garage to a shadowed alley. He stopped at a dumpster. Ears forward, body rigid. "He's close," Deputy Carter radioed, peering over the edge. Movement, 3 guys, 1 restrained. Shouts erupted, Cole and 2 men stumbled out. Dragging Travis, blood streaking his face, a knife at his throat. "Turner!" Cole bellowed, spotting Jake. "Face me, coward!" Deputies drew weapons, Reed's voice booming for calm. Jake stepped forward, hands up. "Let him go, Cole. It's me you want." Before anyone could react, Titan barked, a sharp, urgent cry, and tore free from his lead, racing toward the alley. Clara cried, "Titan, stay," but he was gone, leaping between Jake and Cole just as Cole raised a pistol. A shot cracked the air, and Titan yelped, collapsing as blood bloomed on his shoulder. Chaos swallowed the moment. Deputies tackled Cole, pinning his crew, freeing Travis. But Clara's world shrank to Titan's still form, her sob cutting through the noise. At Glendale Veterinary Emergency Center, Dr. Patel worked fast, her team a blur of scrubs and tools. Ellen held Clara in the waiting room, her wheelchair creaking under their shared weight. Jake paced, his flannel stained with Titan's blood. Guilt etching lines deeper into his face. Bullet hit his shoulder, not his chest, Dr. Patel said post-surgery, mask dangling. He'll recover, but he's off duty for months, 8 weeks minimum. Maybe 12. Clara stroked Titan's bandaged head in recovery, tears falling. He saved Jake, like Daddy would've. Jake knelt beside her, voice raw. "I'm so sorry, Clara. He took that bullet for me, I didn't deserve it." "You were Daddy's friend," she said. Titan knew. Ellen watched, torn between fury and awe. "Why'd he run?" she asked Reed later. "Outside the room." "Instinct," Reed said. Titan saw Jake as pack, Ben's pack. He couldn't let him die, just like Ben wouldn't. Jake spoke up, hands trembling. "Ben wrote me once. Before the crash. Said if I ever got straight, to look after his family. I failed him then, cut him off, drowned in my mess. But not now. I'll help with Titan, rehab him, fill until he's back. I owe you." Clara looked at Ellen, then Jake. "Promise to be gentle? Titan doesn't like loud." "I promise," Jake said, a vow to Ben as much as Clara. 6 months later. Cedar Hollow Park glowed under an October sun, its oaks ablaze with gold and crimson. A crowd gathered at a picnic table adapted for Clara's wheelchair, balloons bobbing in the breeze. Titan, fully recovered in a custom harness Jake had crafted, lightweight, supportive, wore a medallion engraved, "For Valor Beyond Duty." Clara beamed, flanked by Ellen and Jake. Now a fixture in their lives, clean-shaven, in therapy at the VA, teaching Clara to carve wooden dogs. Travis, nose healed, raised a cup. To found family. Ellen smiled, seeing Ben in Clara's courage. Jake's redemption. Cole's trial had ended with jail time and mandated treatment, a quiet justice. The town had rallied, Ruth baked Titan a cake, Deputy Carter brought photos of Ben with Titan. And locals shared stories of the dog's heroics. As dusk fell, Titan's eyes met Jake's, a silent bond forged through sacrifice. Clara slipped her hand into Ellen's, whispering. "Daddy's proud, isn't he?" "Yeah, sweetie," Ellen said, voice thick. "Of all of us." In that autumn light, a biker's prank had sparked pain, but from it bloomed a family, stitched together by a dog's love. A child's heart, and a man's second chance. What's the big takeaway from Clara, Jake, and Titan's journey? It's that healing often comes from the places we least expect, like a child's quiet courage, a dog's fierce loyalty, or a broken man's second chance. This story shows us that our scars, whether they're visible like Clara's or hidden like Jake's, don't have to define us, they can lead us to connection, forgiveness, and a family we build when life falls apart. It's a nudge to look beyond the surface, to see the pain in others, and to trust that even our smallest acts of kindness can spark something beautiful. So, what do you think? Has a moment of compassion ever turned your life around? Drop your thoughts in the comments, I'd love to hear your stories. Give this video a thumbs up if it warmed your heart. And let us know where you're watching from. Hit that subscribe button so we can keep sharing tales like this together, because who knows, maybe the next story will inspire you too.